Hello friends. Today I will be doing this video in my room just because it's been raining on and off the last few days. So here you go. So today I am going to read chapter 13. You ready? I will probably always forget every character's voice that I used for them before. Also, that is Starlight. And Toby is over there. So you'll probably see him at some point. Anyway. Hey. Chapter 13. Samira's good cheer at surviving her first time travel experience lasts right up until the moment she becomes violently ill. She's been sick before, a couple of particularly nasty bouts of flu, a run-in with some parasite-filled water in the big desert, but nothing like this. The contents of her stomach are already long gone, so she's moved on to the occasional dry heave, punctuated by fits of racking coughs. Her sense of balance is so tripped out, it might as well not exist at all. Each time she opens her eyes, the world spins, but each time she closes them, flashing white lights appear and dance around her mind. There's even a high-pitched squealing in her ears that sounds like someone scraping their front teeth across a blackboard. At least I didn't piss myself, she thinks as she lies on the ground in a little ball and waits for death. I suppose that's something. Talk sits next to her with a hand on her back, rubbing it around and around in a small circle. Occasionally, he holds her hair out of the way so she can do her business, but otherwise the hand never leaves her. She's comforted by its weight right now. It's the only thing grounding her in the world. As to the identity of that world, she doesn't have a clue. Before the sickness came, she was able to see a grove of dead trees and some spindly wisps of brown glass. She can tell that Talk is concerned by where they ended up, even though he's trying not to show it. That worries her. She pulls her hands tighter against the knot in her stomach and makes a mental note to ask him once he can speak again. Time passes in a blur. Eventually, her limbs begin to regain their normal gravity, although the tips of her fingers still feel as if they're holding heavy lead weights. The spinning slows to a more manageable rocking sensation, and her stomach finally agrees to stop expelling things that haven't been there for quite some time. Slowly, very slowly, she uncurls herself and rolls onto her back in a half-fetal position. She feels Talk reach for her foot and try to pull it away from her body, but she resists. Wait, she says. Oh my God, don't touch me. You need to stretch, he says, continuing to pull the leg. Trust me, stretch your limbs as far as you can, otherwise you're going to feel heavy and weird. I already do. Okay then, this'll help. He pulls her legs out, then takes her hands and does the same things with her arms, raising them above her head and slowly tugging on the fingers. It feels good, and not just because the heavy sensation is beginning to dissipate. She's simply happy to have him touch her. I told you to eat more pancakes, he says. Samira is still staring up at the trees, but she doesn't need to see her friend's face to know that he's grinning. It isn't funny. Trust me, I know. The first few times I did this, I was sick as a dog. Way worse than you, actually. That's comforting. Here, come on. try to sit up. He pulls her arms again, and Samira manages to transfer her weight from her back to her ass. The world gives a final spin once she's upright, but then her balance returns for good. She coughs an action that causes fire to leap up in her throat. Water, she says. Do we have any water? No, but we'll find some. Come on, get up. We need to move. Talk helps Samira to her feet, holding out an arm for support. She accepts it, wobbles for a second, then manages to stand on her own. Glancing around with new eyes, she sees that they're in what looks to be a city park. Yeah. Albeit one in need of major maintenance. In addition to the dead trees and dry grass, she can see a few fire-ravaged bushes dotting the ground. To her left, an old water fountain is covered in rust. Beyond that, a child's playset rests against the cold gray sky, swings gently wobbling in the breeze. The park isn't large, maybe the size of a city block. And past the swings, she can see a sidewalk and the outline of rooftops. Where are we? Asks Samira. Tok shuffles his feet and looks around. He looks almost guilty. I don't really know. What do you mean? Well, we're supposed to be in this place I call Mario Land, but we're not. Mario Land? You remember that old video game, Super Mario Brothers? Kind of looks like that. There's this really bright blue sky and these perfectly shaped white clouds, and I thought it would be a good place to lie low, but yeah. This isn't it. I don't know where this is. He glances down at the briefcase and rubs it with a finger. I don't know if I set this wrong or if I'm using it while the solid timeline was being overwritten, screwed it up, or what. But we're in the wrong place. Samira nods. Surprisingly, this doesn't bother her as much as she expected it to. Their current location is a dead world, or at least one on life support. But it's quiet and clean enough that she's not feeling the usual pangs of anxiety in her chest. Should we, I don't know, what happens now? Do we wait here or what? We need to get inside, says Tok. I don't like being exposed like this. We'll head for those houses over there and see if anyone's home. What if they are? Then we run. Seriously? Oh, yeah. 90% of time travel is running like hell. I probably should have mentioned that. He moves toward the roofs in the distance, and Samira follows. When she passes the playset, she sees that the slide is covered in a flaky red crust. Her first thought is that it's rust, but as she looks closer, her first thought is that it's rust. But as she looks closer, she begins to think it's actually dried blood. She holds this idea for far longer than she would like before realizing that Tok is almost a block ahead, forcing her to abandon the unpleasant thought and scramble to catch up. The two of them walk in silence down a cracked street with large houses lining either side. This was clearly a high-end neighborhood once, but now it's little more than a graveyard. Tall grass, the same brown color as that of the park, grows with abandon. Windows are shattered and missing. Open doors sag sadly on rusted hinges. Occasionally, they pass a house with boards nailed over the door in random chaotic patterns. At one point, Samira glances down and sees a brown teddy bear with a single button eye. She finds this creepier than anything she's seen so far and quickly reaches out for Tok's hand. He takes it with a reassuring squeeze, but she can tell that he's equally unnerved. You get that, Leaf. Yeah. Silly. Yeah. At the end of the first block, they encounter a burned out shell of what must have once been a very impressive home. Charred timbers, long since cold, poked out of the ground like weary sentinels. A large wooden sign has been staked into the ground on the side of the torched house, and on this someone has spray painted 3 words: "They are coming." Yikes, says Tok. That ain't good. Overhead, the sky has turned a foreboding gray. Soon a flash of lightning lights up the sky, followed seconds later by a loud peal of thunder. Tok glances up, tightening his grip on Samira's hand. Come on, he says. We need to pick a house. I'm sorry, what? She says, her eyes opening wide. Tok, I'm not going in any of these houses. I think that's fair. This is Toby. Hi, my baby. Sam, we don't know what happens when it rains here. It could be acid rain. The water could be infected. Anything. Plus, if we get wet, we have to worry about hypothermia. We need to get inside. You've got to be kidding me, she mutters. Look, some of these are definitely abandoned, so we can take one of those if you want, but I think something that's boarded up is probably a better bet. I mean, at least it's been sealed from the elements. There could be people inside, but I'm guessing they're probably dead, finishes Samira. This whole place is dead. I've seen towns like this in the war. I mean, not exactly like this, but I've felt this kind of stillness. The people here either left or they're dead. Tuck nods, glances around, and points at a faded blue house a little way down the block. The windows and front door have been boarded over, unlike many of its neighbors. It appears to be structurally sound. As they hurried toward it, Samira finds herself looking from window to window, waiting for someone to pop out and start firing. Calmness she felt about the place at first glance fades, and she feels a familiar tightness start to well up in her chest. The blue house is a single-story number, standing in sharp contrast to the massive structures on either side of it. A few ragged pickets of what was once a fence lean drunkenly in front of the driveway. Tuck and Samira move past those and up onto the porch, where Tuck begins examining the boards nailed over the door. As he does, Samira moves around that side of the house. Most of the windows have been sealed up, but by tromping through a backyard garden, she finds a small basement window that the owners neglected to cover. As she's inspecting the glass, she hears footsteps approach. Panic rears its head again before she realizes that it's Tuck. I don't know, he says, approaching her. I don't think I can get the boards off without a hammer or dynamite or, oh, hey, look at that, a window. Yeah, says Samira. Look at that. Shit, that's tiny, says Tuck, as he bends down and sticks his face inside the opening. I don't think I can fit in there, and I'm a skinny ass Japanese dude. I can. Yeah, but come on, Sam. I don't want to send you into the creepy haunted house all alone. It's okay, she says, leaving out the part about her jackhammering heart. Really, I'll be fine. He makes a face at this, but eventually shrugs his shoulders and holds out his hand toward the window like a showroom model. She hesitates for a moment, but not because she's scared of what might be waiting for her inside the house. She hesitates because there is a long, dusty cobweb hanging across the window. You know, fair. I don't like spiders. I would hate to see cobwebs and go through them. Hey, listen, begins Talk. This is dumb. I'll just find a. No, says Samira, shaking her head hard enough to make her curls bounce. No, I got this. She gets down on her belly, forcing away her disgust at the damp and dirty ground, and peers inside the home. Her nose warms of stale water and mold, but the darkness is complete enough to prevent even a cursory look. She tilts her head and listens for a minute or two, but hears only the sound of raindrops falling behind her. Finally, she clamps her mouth and eyes shut and wriggles through the opening. She twists to avoid the cobweb, but feels something brush across her face at the last moment. As Samira clears the window and drops to the concrete floor below, her fingers begin to itch. She starts to brush her hand through her hair, moving them faster and faster until friction makes them burn. She's sure that there are cobwebs in her hair, cobwebs and dirt, and all manner of unclean things, so she tilts her head down and begins rubbing furiously, trying to shake out the army of phantom particles that have no doubt taken up residence. She can feel her breath begin to quicken as she tugs at her hair with renewed fury. Hey, says Tak, peering through the window frame. You okay? What are you doing? Samira freezes in place, then slowly stands and drops her arms to her sides. It takes all of her willpower not to start shaking out her hair again. What do you mean? It sounds like you're, scratching yourself. I'm. Yeah, don't worry. I'm fine. Do you have a flashlight or something? I can't see a thing. To Samira's extreme relief, Tak says nothing more about her unusual behavior. Instead, he reaches into his pocket and produces a long, thin piece of metal. There's a hole at the top through which a string is threaded and a hard stone tied to the other end. Here, he says, it's my flint. It won't hold a flame, but you can at least make sparks with it. She takes the proffered tool without another word and scrapes the rock across the steel. As she does so, bright white sparks leap up, briefly illuminating the room around her. She strikes the steel again and again, each time learning a little more about her surroundings. Spark. That's an old box. Spark. Metal pipe. Spark. Bicycle without any tires. Spark. Lantern. Hey, Tak! She yells excitedly. There's a lantern here. Hold on a sec. Scrambling around in the dark, hands extended, she bumps and stumbles her way over to where she saw the lantern. After a few more sparks to get her bearings, she manages to open the small glass door that protects the wick. Her first few attempts at lighting it do nothing, and for a moment she thinks it's out of fuel. But on the fifth spark it finally catches. She holds it aloft, enjoying the cheerful yellow glow, and takes a moment to make sure there's nothing hanging from her hair. Hey, what's up? Yells Tak from the window. What do you see? It's a basement, she says, holding a curl in front of her face. It's full of basement stuff. Do you see a hammer anywhere? Preferably a big one? Yeah, hold on, I'm looking. She drops the hair and lets her eyes roam across the room. She spots a set of stairs leading up to a wooden door. A couple of sagging shelves holding old cans of paint and a battered washing machine covered in mold. Finally, she turns around and finds a pegboard holding a set of old rusty tools. Uttering a cheerful cry, she shuffles over to the board and removes a hammer and a pry bar, both of which she passes through the window to Talk. Dude, Sam, you're a fucking rock star! He cries as he takes the tools. Okay, I'm gonna go open the front door. Do you need me to help you out? No, I see a door. I'm just going to head upstairs. Cool, I'll be there in 2 shakes. He scampers away, leaving a pair of footprints in the soft dirt beneath the window. Samira feels her body trying to move to the moldy washing machine and forces it toward the stairs instead. If she spends any more time in this room, she'll likely never leave. There's so much to clean that her head is spinning. Hi, baby. She hears Tak pulling nails as she ascends to the stairs and opens the basement door. Holding the lantern in front of her, she finds herself standing in a small kitchen. At first glance, it seems utterly unremarkable, but then she notices the sink. Where there should have been one faucet, there were 3. Moving closer, she can see a set of symbols etched on each one. Okay, I'm going to show you the symbols because I don't know how to describe those. Look at the symbols. I'm sorry, Starlight. Okay. Samira is so engrossed by this discovery that she doesn't hear Tak until he's standing behind her. Wordlessly, she reaches out and points towards the faucets. He moves in for a closer look, then begins to nod as if he expected this all along. Kinda weird, huh? He says. You see a lot of stuff like this in random timelines, where something's almost normal, but then it's not. This, this house probably has little stuff like this everywhere. What happened in this place? Asks Samira as Tak takes the lantern from her hand and begins rummaging through cabinets. I mean, where is everyone? This house seems fine. I'm not sure, he says as a plastic cup falls from a cabinet and goes bouncing toward the floor. Maybe there was a war or a plague or something. Maybe they just all went to the movies. Don't make fun of me. Well, it could have been a good movie. Talk! Sorry. Look, I don't know where they went. I haven't ever landed in a place like this before. He pulls a small metal box out of the cupboard and pries open the cover. With a grin, he hands the find to Samira, holding the lantern so she can see inside. The container is filled with what appears to be candy bars covered in shiny silver wrappers. The word Pandonculus is scribbled across each one in a bright red font. I don't want to eat something called Pandonculus, murmurs Samira. I bet they're fantastic, replies Tak with as much of a straight face as he can muster. Never do that again, says Samira, trying and failing to hold a giggle at bay. She stuffs 2 of the bars in her pocket, then follows Tak as he wanders out of the kitchen and into the front room, where they discover a faded green couch, an old rocking chair, and a fireplace. Crumpled up newspapers lie everywhere as if someone had unpacked the furniture then split before cleaning up. All in all, the house was in better shape than Samira was expecting. Its musty It's musty and could use a good dusting, but she thinks she'll be able to handle both of those things for a little while. She kicks at a piece of paper as Talk picks up the boards he tore off the front door and starts hammering them across the inside frame, knocking over a small umbrella stand in the process. Just in case, he says between thumps. I mean, I'm with you. I think this place is deserted, but you never know. As he works, Samira explores the rest of the house. She finds a bathroom, faucets marked with the same odd symbols as those in the kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and a small closet. The closet door is open, revealing blankets, pillows, and a box of something called Beam Bright Cleaner. She picks up the box and flips it over on the other side. A smiling, bald man holds a mop in one hand and a sponge in the other. My hero, murmurs Samira to herself. She drops the cleaner somewhat reluctantly and moves back to the bathroom. There's a tub and a shower combination that's a bit grimy but could probably be made to work with a little help from Mr. Beambright. She turns the nozzle, hoping to see a spray of clear blue water, but doesn't get so much as a drop. Maybe I can go stand in the rain and clean off, she thinks, listening to the sound of drops pelting the bathroom window. I mean, as long as it's not poison or whatever the hell Talk was talking about. This thought of Talk makes her realize that he hasn't been hammering for a while, so she wanders back to the hall and to the living room. She finds him facing the fireplace and staring at an unfolded piece of newspaper. As she walks up behind him and places a hand on his shoulder, he flinches slightly. Hey, what's up? Talk says nothing, so Samira cranes her head around to look at her friend. The expression in his eyes is one of frightened confusion. Talk? She asks, suddenly nervous. Talk, what is it? What's wrong? In response, he hands her the front page of the newspaper, something called the River Rock Gazette. The headline reads simply, All is Lost. The rest of the page is taken up by a blurry black and white photograph of something standing in the glow of a streetlight. At first, she thinks it's an extremely tall, thin man. But then she notices how it's covered here and there with shaggy black feathers. Looking closer, she sees a pair of twisted talons where its feet should be, as well as what appears to be a beak protruding from its head. Samira grabs Talk's arm, digging her fingers into his flesh as they continue to stare at the photo. After a minute, Talk flips the paper over and holds it out toward the warbling yellow light of the lantern. On the back, printed in tiny font, are hundreds and hundreds of names. The list runs raggedly up and down the page before finally careening off the edge halfway through a name as if the person operating the press had run out of time. Talk, says Samira softly. What happened here? I don't know, he replies, but I think we better get the hell out of Dodge. That would be terrifying. Chapter 14. That's exciting. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. I hope you have a good rest of your day.